clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protesters.
Peaceful protest.
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 Good evening. I'm Robert Crescione, and welcome to America in Danger. Now, some of you might remember that I did this show several years ago, and because of job requirements or job constraints, I had to stop doing the show. Well, I'm back. I'm back to do the show. And, you know, the title of the show, we chose America in Danger 15 years ago for the title of the show. Reason being, there is always danger present. There has been since the beginning of history. There are always threats. There are always those who wish to rule the world, so to speak. And America has continually been under assault with various movements throughout history. And it is always in danger, and more so now than ever. So tonight, I want to take a few minutes and talk about some things that we need to be aware of. You know, there are a lot of things going on in this country right now, and it's hard to keep up with things without a scorecard. So I want to just bring some things to your attention and give you some things to think about. You know, because that's what this show is about. Now, this is the first show that we're doing, and we're going to continue doing these every Saturday night at 6:30. And what we're planning on doing ultimately is having a segment on national interest, then a segment on state interest, a segment on local interest, and then general topics. And on future shows, we'll be taking calls so you can get your voice heard. Because that's always interesting, and I like people to be able to say what they think. We want to help educate people and give people perspective, because people ultimately need to think for themselves. You know, we have a government institution that takes children from early age and trains them on subjects that they wish to train them on. Now, schools continually talk about teaching people how to think critically and what have you, but what we're seeing nowadays is not critical thinking in colleges, universities, and high schools, and even grade schools. What we're seeing is groupthink, where if you have a different idea, if you hold a different belief, you're ostracized, you're marginalized, you're ridiculed, you're compartmentalized. So we all need to have a perspective on things. And sometimes that perspective is gained simply by hearing some of the facts and the truth and looking at things from a different angle. Because we all know when you look at things from one side, that's all you see is one side. So tonight, I have some things I want to talk about. And one of those will become more clear as we go along. But I want to start with this. There is a determined movement in the world. It's dedicated to an agenda designed to reorganize human society. In order to do so, our American economic model must be disrupted. Private property must be abolished. Our representative government must change. Now, one may ask, why? Why? Why destroy a nation to which millions flock seeking liberty? Why destroy the only nation on earth where the rights of the individual are paramount to the power of government? Why destroy a system where achievement is praised and individuals are free to accomplish as they desire? Why does a nation that has come so far as we have in our history suddenly need such radical change? Change that includes make-believe constructs that deny science, that deny human nature, that deny biology and deny history. Why are we suddenly expected to believe the altered reality being created by a political movement bent on subverting everything good in this nation? I ask you, why do we have to destroy this nation? Why do we have to tear this nation down? We have politicians pumping their fist in the air, shouting, "We must change America. We must change this country." Why? Is this country so bad? Has this country murdered millions of its own citizens? This country is probably one of the greatest in the world, if not the greatest in the world. Now, I don't know about you, but I prefer that we not destroy this country. I like living in the United States. I like the fact that I can work and keep most of my money, or some of my money anyway. So why do we need to do this radical change? And what can we do to stop this insidious destruction? Well, you know, often people ask, well, what can one person do? What can I do? I'm just one person. You know, I hear that a lot. What can one person do? We're helpless. We can't do anything. We can't fight the system. Or some people just feel that they can't keep up with what's going on. They can't understand what's going on. There's so much out there going on, and from every angle, from every which way you turn, and people are just confused. They don't know what's going on, or they feel that the issues are simply too complicated. You know, how many times have we been told by a politician, "You just don't understand. You don't understand the issue." Well, I think that more people understand than what the politicians want us to believe. You know, and all too often people say, "I just don't have the time. I got kids, the kids have activities after school, we're playing travel ball, we've got movies to watch, we got this, that, and the other, I just don't have time." Or my all-time favorite is, "Well, everything's done for, so why do anything?" Well, I'll tell you, you know, as far as having time and doing anything, well, let me say this. There is no magic bullet fix. There's absolutely no magic bullet that's going to rectify everything and take us back. First of all, we don't want to go back because things continually improve. I mean, I don't want to go back before the days of cell phones and computers and TVs. So nobody's talking about going back, because that's the first thing that's thrown at you when you start talking about stopping the progressive destruction of this nation. We heard candidates say, "Oh, they're going to have you all back in chains. You're going backwards. You're going back to Jim Crow. You're going back. Whoa." Well, nobody wants to go back, and that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is preserve the basic foundational principles upon which this country was founded. We want to preserve those. We want to preserve liberty and the rights that we enjoy. Now, as I said, there's no magic bullet fix. There's no single issue that, if won, is going to fix the nation. There's not one single issue out there that's going to stop the march, the Gramscian march, if you will, through society. There's no one single issue going to change that. we have to look at numerous issues. We have to fight on many fronts. You know, there are days when you get up in the morning and you're looking at a local issue. At noon, you're looking at a state issue, and in the evening, you're looking at a federal issue. That's just how it is, you know. But that's how we have to be. We have to be flexible. We have to be able to roll and address these issues as we can. Now, this drive to fundamentally change this nation is one that seeks to take the inherent rights that we have and transfer full authority for those over to the government. You know, our Constitution guarantees our rights. It doesn't grant our rights. Our rights come from a power higher than government, and government is mandated to protect the rights of the individual. Now, by protecting the rights of the individual, you protect all people. When we look at what's going on with so many special interest groups demanding special rights, well, special rights don't help the individual. They only help members of that group. And if you're not a member of that group, well, you're excluded from those rights. So we have to remember that. When the rights of the individual are protected, the rights of all are protected. When special rights are granted to a group, people are excluded from that. So only some people enjoy those rights. Now, in all of this, we have to be equipped with certain tools. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, I didn't go to school for this stuff. I don't know about this stuff. I don't know what to do. Well, the reality is most of us are equipped with many of those tools already. We just have to learn how to use them. You know, a simple understanding of human nature goes a long way. And we have to understand that everyone is human and everyone is subject to the desires, the fears, the frailties of humanity. Whether it's the President of the United States or the lowest ditch digger in the land. We all are human and we all display those frailties. Now, perspective is another one that we have to have, you know, because we're not always given perspective by the talking heads, by the media. In fact, very often that perspective is skewed or tainted or simply their side of the story, one side of the story. You know, in any issue, there's always my side, your side, and what really happened. So we can't simply look at things from one side and be satisfied. We shouldn't be satisfied. You shouldn't be satisfied. You know, we need to have some perspective. And another thing that we should remember is that we all have a sphere of influence. We all know people. We all associate with people. And, you know, those are the people that we can influence. Now, I want to continue along these lines, but we're going to take a little commercial break right quick. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can look at with some perspective to give you some examples. So we'll be right back. I'm Robert Crescione. You're watching America in Danger.
joy, hope, and peace. Few songs in our lives have the power of hymns. Now you can bring this inspirational music into your home and life every day with 50 Most Loved Hymns, a new 2-CD collection. Magnificent hymns, just as you remember them. 50 Most Loved Hymns, a timeless collection for all ages on 2 CDs for only $21.98 plus $5.95 shipping and handling. Call now or order online.
Their price, $30,000. Your price, $20. Can you tell the difference? Even expert jewelers have a difficult time distinguishing the Diamond Z4 CZ from mine diamonds because of their similarity. This exquisite ring features a flawless simulated diamond center stone of 2 3/4 carats surrounded by over 1 1/4 carats of round and tapered flawless baguettes. One jewelry industry professional marveled at their beauty and brilliance.
It's exceedingly rare to see such flawless stones.
He's right. Comparable solitaires made of diamonds can cost up to $30,000. Your price through this special invitation will be only $20. And for a limited time, you can also receive this beautiful band with 1.92 carats of diamond Z4s. Get both CZ rings totaling over an astounding 6 carats for $20. So call or click now.
Call 1-800-203-6540 to get your Diamond Z4. Call now or go to DiamondZ4.com. So call 1-800-203-6540. That's 1-800-203-6540. Call now.
We're back for more America in Danger. I want to thank you for tuning in. Now, we've been talking about the movement in this country that appears to want the destruction of our way of life, of our norms, of societal structures, of everything in this country, and the economic system, everything. And I feel like we as individuals can do more. We can always do more. And many people are hesitant because they don't understand the politics, they don't know how the General Assembly works, or how Congress works, and it's confusing. I won't lie to you, it is confusing because there are so many arcane rules and procedures and just underhanded trickery in both Congress and the General Assembly that it's hard to keep up with what's going on. Now, some of the modern tools, the internet and what have you, have helped a lot on that. Because now you can go to the North Carolina General Assembly website, you can pull up a bill, you can search for a bill by text if you just know what the bill is about, or you can plug in the number and it pulls it up. It tells you what the status is, where it resides, what committee it's in, and what action has been taken on it. Plus, it gives you the all-important text of the bill. Now, as I was saying earlier, you know, we all have a sphere of influence. We all have people that we talk to on a daily basis. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be overzealous activists. We don't want to do that. But we do need to be alert to opportunities to clarify and define. Often people are informed with only talking points. You know, we recently heard the President of the United States use the term Jim Crow on steroids. We heard Nancy Pelosi say someone was a martyr for democracy. We continue to hear Russia collusion, Russia intervention, Russian disinformation. And the one that's still going around is that voter ID is equivalent to voter suppression. Now, sometimes all it takes is asking a reasonable question. You know, the president said, oh, this is Jim Crow on steroids for the Georgia bill, the Georgia voter integrity bill. Jim Crow on steroids. Now, I know that you'll hear people use that very term. I know I have. And the question to ask, a very simple question and a legitimate question, is, have you read the bill? If they have not read the bill, then where did they get the perspective that it was Jim Crow on steroids? From the news media. Now, another one is Nancy Pelosi's use of a martyr for democracy when the Capitol Police officer was run over and killed. Now, one question there that we really need to ask and really need to understand for ourselves is, isn't this a republic? We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic where the rule is by law, not by the majority. Now, the Russian collusion, we continue to hear this one to this day. And the question to ask is, where is the evidence? You know, we were told by Nadler, by Schumer, by Pelosi, by a whole host of elected officials that they had seen the evidence. Where is the evidence? There is none. And the good one, the one that I really like, is voter ID is voter suppression. Now, tell me, what are things that you can do with no ID? Can you fly? Can you cash a check? Can you get your lights turned on? Can you buy a car? You know, there aren't many things that you can do these days without identification. And we're expected to believe that people are supposed to be able to vote, something that affects everyone in this country. And yet we're told, oh no, they have to vote with no identification whatsoever. They need to be able to register the same day and go down and vote. We need to be able to go into the retirement homes and harvest absentee ballots, because those people need to vote, even though we have to mark their ballots for them because they don't even know who's running. You know, all of those things jeopardize the integrity of the balloting in this country. And if voting is diminished, if voting becomes a joke, then not only is voting a joke, but the government becomes a joke. The system of laws we have in this country becomes a joke. And we install basically a government for life, because the vote will be controlled ultimately through corruption, through various means. And we don't want that in this country. You know, the biggest lie that we're told on a daily basis is that everyone in this country has to vote. Well, I ask you, if you don't know who is running, if you don't know anything about them, how can you vote? How can you go down with a clear conscience and vote for people that you don't even know? You know, that's one of the responsibilities that we as individuals have, to know who we're voting for. I'm not saying suppress the vote. I don't want to suppress the vote. I want people who legitimately understand what they're voting for to go vote, every one of them, regardless of who they are. You know, but we need to have perspective, and those are just some examples of the perspectives that we should have, that we should understand. You know, there are always more sides to a story than others. Sometimes it's just a matter of knowing which question to ask. Now, there are some other things we can do as well. You know, sometimes it takes a simple letter or an email asking your representative to oppose or support something. You know, and again, people are like, well, you know, I wrote my congressman one time and he wrote me back and he didn't agree with me and he didn't change his mind. Well, you shouldn't even worry what they write back, number one, because it's a form letter. They're not communicating back to you. They're having their clerk simply send you something back, letting you know that, yes, we got your communication and we'll take it into consideration. Well, don't worry about what they have to say. What we have to keep in mind is that a single letter represents not only your opinion, but that of others. So when you write your letter, when you write your congressman, he sees one letter, he says, oh, well, there's a handful of people out there who think this way, or believe this way, or want this. Now, when you get people that send in 100 letters or calls, that represents the opinion of thousands. And that's what we want. When you can send in a letter, knowing that 100 of your friends are sending in a letter, then that congressman begins to look. He says, there's a lot of people out there concerned about this. Now, if that congressman or senator were to receive 1,000 letters, emails, or calls, then he looks at that 1,000 and he says, you know what? That's a voting block. And I assure you, elected officials live and die, eat and breathe and sleep on votes. So 1,000 people in a congressional district can push that congressman in a direction. Now, I'm not saying he'll come around, because the thing of it is, politicians never see the light, but they certainly feel the heat. And when 1,000 or more people write in about an issue, they understand that there's a good number of people that are concerned. So that's what we need to do. Now, a lot of people don't even know how to begin contacting their representatives. A lot of people are scared to call in or hesitant to call in. I don't like calling in. I normally send email. And you know what? It's very easy, and you don't even have to be extremely computer literate to do so. And if you don't know who your elected official is, it's very easy to find out. In fact, you can go into Google or any other search engine, which I use any other search engine. I try not to use Google anymore than I have to for various reasons. But you go in and type in, who is my elected official? And a whole host of information will appear, telling you who your elected officials are. And then it's simply a matter of typing their name in, hitting enter, and their websites will come up. We're going to take a little break right now, and when we come back, I want to talk about a critical issue that's being taken up in the General Assembly here in North Carolina right now. So I'm Robert Crescione, you're watching America in Danger, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
joy, hope, and peace. Few songs in our lives have the power of hymns. Now you can bring this inspirational music into your home and life every day with 50 Most Loved Hymns, a new 2-CD collection. Magnificent hymns, just as you remember them. 50 Most Loved Hymns, a timeless collection for all ages on 2 CDs for only $21.98 plus $5.95 shipping and handling. Call now or order online.
Their price, $30,000. Your price, $20. Can you tell the difference? Even expert jewelers have a difficult time distinguishing the Diamond Z4 CZ from mine diamonds because of their similarity. This exquisite ring features a flawless simulated diamond center stone of 2 3/4 carats surrounded by over 1 1/4 carats of round and tapered flawless baguettes. One jewelry industry professional marveled at their beauty and brilliance.
It's exceedingly rare to see such flawless stones.
He's right. Comparable solitaires made of diamonds can cost up to $30,000. Your price through this special invitation will be only $20. And for a limited time, you can also receive this beautiful band with 1.92 carats of diamond Z4s. You get both CZ rings totaling over an astounding 6 carats for $20. So call or click now.
Call 1-800-203-6540 to get your Diamond Z4. Call now or go to DiamondZ4.com. So call 1-800-203-6540. That's 1-800-203-6540. Call now.
We're back. I'm Robert Crescione. You're watching America in Danger. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, I was talking about contacting our elected officials. And, you know, letters and phone calls are great. They show that, first of all, you are very serious about the issue. And, you know, congressmen and senators look at those and probably give them a little more weight than emails. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't email. I have probably sent out in the neighborhood of 400 emails this year already, to members of the General Assembly, to members of the Senate, the House on the federal level, and even to the President of the United States. You know, it's easy to do. I have links set up in an Excel spreadsheet, and I just click that link, and it takes me right to the email. I have a list of email addresses for the General Assembly, which the General Assembly, you can actually get their individual email address. Now, when you contact Senator Burr or Tillis or Butterfield or whoever your representative and senators may be, you get a contact page, which is fine because that works too. But don't ever hesitate to contact them. It's very easy to do. People say they don't have time. I can email all of the members of the North Carolina General Assembly in under 3 minutes. Your letters don't have to be long, drawn out, extremely complicated, or very deep. Many times my emails, all you have to do is read the subject line, and that tells you how I feel on something. So don't feel like you have to write a novel to send them. 1 line, 2 lines, a paragraph, that's fine. That's all they need. Now, there are some issues of immediate importance in this state and other states. It's an issue that has the potential to upend everything we hold near and dear in this nation. It's an issue that even the so-called conservative leaders are touting and calling for. However, I assure you, they are wrong. This issue is an Article 5 convention from the U.S. Constitution. Now, the question is this the savior of the Republic, as so many conservative leaders, so-called leaders, are fond of saying, or is it a surrender of liberty? That's the question. Now, this is Article 5. Now, you probably can't read it because the text is very small on the screen at this point. You probably can't read it. But this is it. That is the entirety of Article 5. And yet, we have so-called conservative leaders out there every day espousing all of the great things that are going to be done with an Article 5 convention, and how it will run and how it's going to be done and all of the rules and regulations and all of that. But I assure you, what you're looking at is it. That is the extent of the rules for an Article 5, and really, there are no rules for the convention itself. Now, we're going to break this down. I want to break this down because it's not an extremely complicated text for Article 5, but it is long, and there are a lot of breaks in it, and you have to understand where we're going. Well, what Article 5 says is that Congress, whenever, and that's whenever this happens, 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution. Okay, so all that's saying is that Congress, when they think there's something serious enough to consider, they'll propose an amendment if 2/3 of both houses think it should be done. And that's 2/3 of the House of Representatives and 2/3 of the Senate. That's a supermajority and takes quite a bit of doing because these are serious issues. They didn't want amendments proposed willy-nilly. It's a serious issue, and they want serious consideration of this. Now, that's one whenever, but there's an or in there. So whenever 2/3 of both houses consider it necessary, they'll propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the states. So Congress can do it when they think it's serious enough, or the states can ask Congress to do it when 38 of the 50 states supply applications to Congress. Now, it says that once that condition is met, Congress shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the Constitution. Now, they're not part of the Constitution when they're proposed. An amendment has to go through a ratification process. So what this is saying is that when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, so the amendment is proposed or a convention is held, either way, the amendments go back to the state legislatures for ratification. Now, they can go back to the state legislatures or to ratifying conventions, which still requires the 3/4 of the states holding ratifying conventions to approve those. Now, the interesting thing about it is Congress determines which. Congress determines whether it's going to be ratified by the legislatures or whether the states are going to have to hold conventions to ratify the amendment. One or the other. Congress gets to decide. Now, in the past 32 amendments that have been proposed to the U.S. Constitution, in all 32 of them, the state legislatures were chosen for ratification. Now, 28 of those passed, but there have been 32 proposed amendments. 28 of them are passed and part of the Constitution. Now, there are specific roles that are played in this process. And, you know, I'm explaining this in very simple terms because it's good for people to know how these things work. All right. Now, there are roles. You have Congress and you have the states. Now, Congress proposes amendments. They specify a mode of ratification for the amendments. They call for an Article 5 convention if 38 states apply. But Congress has no authority whatsoever to limit the scope of the convention to anything less than the purposes outlined in Article 5. And if you recall, Article 5 says to propose amendment. Period. That's it. End of story. So Congress has no authority other than that. Now the states, they can apply for a convention for the purposes of amending the Constitution. But they as well have no authority to limit the scope of the convention to anything less than the purpose outlined in Article 5, which is to propose amendments. Right now we have people touting a term limits convention. We have other states where they're touting a balanced budget amendment convention. I assure you the states have no authority to limit the scope of the convention to anything less than that proposed in Article 5. And that is well-documented judicial opinion. So it's not going to happen. The states are not going to limit anything in there. The states get to ratify or reject an amendment. Now, what part do the people play in all of this, you ask? And if you haven't asked, you should ask, because we want to know what part we get to play in all of this. None. Absolutely none. The American people do nothing. Remember, Congress specifies a mode of ratification for all amendments, so we don't get to vote on them. They're not put on a ballot for referendum. We don't get to vote on them. In all 32 amendments, including the 27 ratified, we didn't get a vote, and we won't get a vote on the future. Now, the question is, who chooses delegates to an Article 5 convention? Should one be called? That's a good question. We don't really know who's going to call those. Is it the state legislatures? Is it the political parties? Now, proponents of the Article 5 convention claim that state legislatures will. But there's no hard, fast rule. You saw the entirety of Article 5 on the screen. I showed you the entirety of Article 5. So, who gets to decide? We don't know yet. We just don't know. Now, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about some other dangers of an Article 5 convention, because right now we have numerous conservative leaders touting that this is the way to fix everything. This will fix everything. And we're going to talk about that when we get back. So I'm Robert Crescione. You're watching America in Danger. Stay tuned.
Comfort, joy, hope, and peace. Few songs in our lives have the power of hymns. you can bring this inspirational music into your home and life every day with 50 Most Loved Hymns, a new 2-CD collection. Magnificent hymns, just as you remember them. 50 Most Loved Hymns, a timeless collection for all ages on 2 CDs for only $21.98 plus $5.95 shipping and handling. Call now or order online.
Their price, $30,000. Your price, $20. Can you tell the difference? Even expert jewelers have a difficult time distinguishing the Diamond Z4 CZ from mine diamonds because of their similarity. This exquisite ring features a flawless simulated diamond center stone of 2 3/4 carats, surrounded by over 1 1/4 carats of round and tapered flawless baguettes. One jewelry industry professional marveled at their beauty and brilliance.
It's exceedingly rare to see such flawless stones.
He's right. Comparable solitaires made of diamonds can cost up to $30,000. Your price through this special invitation will be only $20. And for a limited time, you can also receive this beautiful band with 1.92 carats of Diamond Z4s. You get both CZ rings totaling over an astounding 6 carats for $20. So call or click now.
Call 1-800-203-6540 to get your Diamond Z4. Call now or go to diamondz4.com. So call 1-800-203-6540. That's 1-800-203-6540. Call now.
We're back. I'm Robert Crescione. You're watching America in Danger. Thanks for tuning back in. Want to clarify, I've got some numbers screwed around there. To call a convention, it takes 34 states. That's 2/3. To ratify the convention, it takes 3/4, which would be 38 states. So, small error there, though it's a major error if it's done on a national level. Anyway, now we're talking about an Article 5 convention and how the so-called conservative leaders of today, many of them are calling for this convention to implement term limits or balanced budget, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But one of the main things that they assure us, numerous assurances, that the convention will be controlled. We'll limit it to a single amendment. Well, as we talked a little earlier, there's nothing in Article 5 that says that the Congress or the states has the authority to limit the convention. The convention is convened to propose amendments. Those amendments can be anything up to and including a completely new constitution. Keep that in mind. You know, when they talk about a controlled convention, well, you know what? An amendment can be an entirely new constitution. This amendment hereby scraps the old Constitution. Here's the new one. We already have groups out there writing the new Constitution for the United States. So believe me, they've got their eye on this. Now, will special interests be kept out of the convention? Well, the proponents are saying, oh yes, indeed, we won't let any special interest in this convention. Well, let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, we can't even keep special interest out of the North Carolina General Assembly. How are we going to keep it out of a national convention? You know, right now there are numerous lobbyists from out of state. There are influencers from out of state just rummaging through the General Assembly, promising things to these legislators and convincing them that their way is the best way. Well, you know what? I don't know. I think that, first of all, we should close the door to out-of-state lobbyists. We should close the door to out-of-state influence and let the people of North Carolina decide this. Isn't that the more logical thing to do? You know, the convention can't be controlled. That's clear as a bell. There is no provision for controlling a convention. There's no provision for setting up a single issue. And you know, even if it was a single issue convention, let's talk about term limits for just a minute. Okay. One of the legislators in Raleigh posted a really good Facebook post. It wasn't a meme, it wasn't a joke, it wasn't poking fun at some national politician. In his post concerning term limits, he stated that he did not feel that as a legislator, it was his authority or purview to deny anyone the ability to vote for a candidate of their choice. Now that's term limits. Term limits says you can't vote for the person you would like to see in office. Now we all know that we have politicians in Washington, we have politicians on a state level, we even have politicians on a local level who have been there too long, who have gotten too comfortable, who have gotten too powerful, and they need to go. But is it someone else's responsibility to do that? Or is it the voters' responsibility to do that? And again, we go back to what I was saying earlier about being an informed voter. You should be an informed voter. And it's our responsibility to vote these people out. And again, people say, oh, well, there's nothing you can do. Well, you know what? There is. You can exercise individual responsibility. Now, is it going to win the day? Maybe not. But at least you can lay your head down on your pillow at night and say, you know what? I did the best I could do for this nation and my family. So, you know, there is a host of pro-Article 5, pro-Convention of States, pro-term limits budget amendment, term limits amendment, pro-balanced budget amendment conventions out there. If you go on Google and you search for any of that, it'll come up and Mark Meckler will be on there, Marco Rubio, even Hannity occasionally throws in his weight on it. It's a whole host of people who want this. And if you look deeper, if you dig deeper, now the proponents of this will tell you, oh, well, people like George Soros and the insider establishment leftists, they don't want this. So it's bad for the country. It's really good for the country, but they're saying it's bad because they don't want it. But the reality is, those entities are sponsoring it just as much as the so-called conservative leaders. Because if you dig deep into the funding, you will find that the organizations supporting this are funded from both sides of the aisle. Now, who loses in this deal? That would be me and you. Because we don't need to fundamentally change this nation. This nation is founded on a set of principles that have held till now. We have been on an upward trajectory the entire history of this nation. Yeah, there have been some negative things in the past. There absolutely have. No one's going to deny that. No one wants to deny that. But we have been on a track of constant improvement, of steady improvement, of continual improvement. Why do we have to destroy everything now in the name of some radical change for some utopian, bizarre dream that these politicians are having? The answer is we don't. We don't need to destroy anything. If there are tweaks, then certainly we need to make some changes, but we don't need to destroy this nation. We certainly don't. Now, if you want more information on Article 5, because you should, you really need to be aware of this, and I'm going to be talking about this more in the days to come. There is a website that you can go to. It's called No Convention of States, North Carolina. There's the address. It's nocosnc.com, and I highly suggest that you go to that website and take a look at that, because that's what you need to do, is find the information. Don't take my word for it. I'm just an ordinary citizen, so don't take my word for it. Your liberties are at stake. My liberties are at stake. This nation is at stake. So I urge you, go to that website, NoCOSNC, that's No Convention of States, NC.com. That's where you can begin your search. I heartily encourage everyone to do that. Now, you know, we have looked at this Convention of States, and there are a lot of things that we're being told. A lot of things we're being told every day just about, by government, by industry, by various elected officials, by appointed officials, by everyone. Now, we know that government has lied to us in the past. We know that government hasn't hesitated to lie when it serves the interest of government. Now, I'm not anti-government by any means. I think the government is absolutely necessary to a civilized society. To a cohesive civilized society, we must have government. And government must be held within certain bounds for that society to be prosperous and to prevail. So I'm not anti-government. What I am, I'm anti-wool pulled over your eyes. I'm anti-sheep mentality. I'm anti-toe the line mentality. Now we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some government lies that we've been told. And I remember some of these in my lifetime, and you'll probably remember some too. So we're going to talk about that when we get back, not in an anti-government way, but you need to have that perspective. You need to understand that government will lie to you on occasion. So I'm Robert Crescione. You're watching America in Danger. We'll be right back. I'm sorry, we're going to have to save that for next week. This has been such a quick show, I didn't even realize it, but we are out of time. So tune in next week, and we're going to cover those lies that government tells us and has told us that are documented, not conspiracy. We're not going to talk about some strange conspiracy theory. We're going to talk about things that are documented and declassified that are real. So I'm Robert Crescione. Thanks for joining me for America in Danger. See you next week.